Today was President Trump's first business day on the job, and he started it by getting down to business with business leaders. He quickly painted a contradictory picture of priorities, with agenda items corporate America will love and others they will hate.
We think we can cut regulations by 75%, maybe more, but by 75%. If you go to another country and you decide that you're going to close and get rid of 2,000 people or 5,000 people, if that happens, we are going to be imposing a very major border tax on the product when it comes in, which I think is fair. We want to start making our products again. We don't want to bring them in, we want to make them here. And that doesn't mean we don't trade, because we do trade.
But not with the terms as outlined in the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Today, Trump withdrew from this trade agreement by signing an executive order. And while today was about business and the economy, Trump often sounded more like a candidate than a president over the weekend.
I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth.
Those comments came Saturday in front of the memorial wall to the 117 CIA officers who died in the line of duty. More on that later. Trump was angry about comparisons of the crowd size at his inaugural and President Obama's in 2009. And despite all kinds of evidence supporting a smaller turnout this year, Trump Press Secretary Sean Spicer got visibly irate as he read a prepared statement.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe. These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong.
The administration even shut down the Twitter account at the Interior Department after two employees tweeted about the smaller crowds. The National Park Service ultimately tweeted an apology, saying it regretted the actions of those workers. And all of this was just over how many people went to the inaugural. Joining me for more on how the new administration is adapting to the new digs at the White House are former U.S. Attorney Frank McNamara, who worked on the Trump campaign and was at the inaugural. Good to see you again, Frank.
Nice to be here.
Sidney Asbury was the campaign manager for former Governor Deval Patrick. Sidney, it's good to see you, too.
Thank you.
Let me start with you. Even though I'm sure you don't like what's going on, you're not a Trump fan, he essentially is doing exactly what he promised voters he would do. On Friday, he, quote, eased the burden of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Today, he said, if you're a corporation stays here, you'll be rewarded. If you leave, you're going to suffer. And finally, he did what Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton wanted him to do. He's saying, I'm not doing the TPP. So he promised, he's delivering, no?
So I have to imagine there are many Americans today who are having a little case of buyer's remorse. I mean, we look at what's happened over just these brief days of his presidency, and it's horrifying. I mean,
but none of these should be a surprise. All three of the things I detail, which are pretty high profile, is exactly what he said he was going to do time and time and time again, no?
And it's exactly what I think Americans need to hold him accountable for. And I think what you saw this weekend with over 5 million people around the world standing up and saying, we stand for dignity, we stand for human rights, we stand for equality for everyone. These are things that we shouldn't have to say in 2017.
Okay, I'm guessing, Frank, you're celebrating the same thing she's decrying. Yeah. However, tell me the truth. Were you not troubled this weekend, particularly Saturday? The President of the United States, his spokesperson, talking about how much they won by, comparing the size of the crowds. And by the way, I would argue not telling the truth when they were doing that. Doesn't that bother you? Doesn't he have anything more important to do?
I think triumphalism is always off-putting.
To you too, right?
Yeah, to everyone, and nobody likes triumphalism. But and who wants to talk about crowd size? And I'm wondering if it's so unimportant, why are we even talking about it now?
I didn't bring it up. The President of the United States and his press person
Well, I'll tell you who brought it up. CNN brought it up. MSNBC brought it up during that event. They were the ones who fired the first shot on crowd
comparison. Well, by the way, you were there. I watched most
of
it on television. That actually is not, they were not doing crowd comparisons. It was his own Interior Department. And by the way, I think that employee should be ashamed for having done that to embarrass the new president. But it was coming essentially from the administration.
Jim, I think crowd size discussions are as silly as hand-sized discussions.
Well, he also brought those up.
Okay,
speaking of that, this led to the now infamous discussion on Meet the Press between Chuck Todd and senior advisor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. You've all seen it 1,000 times. Now is 1,001. Here it is.
Sir, our press secretary gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts? Alternative facts, 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. The one thing he got right was Zeke Miller. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered were just not true. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
You're a former prosecutor. You must know about alternative facts, don't you, or no?
And Kellyanne's a lawyer, and Chuck Todd is not. I know all about alternative facts, and anyone comfortable with the argot and the vocabulary of the lawyers as well. Quick example. What are you looking at, Jim? My right hand, correct?
I am.
Thumb is to the left, thumb is to the right, small finger is to the left. What are you looking at now?
I think it's pretty much the same hand.
But my thumb is going to the
Alternative
to the left.
facts.
I think
Okay,
whether
same-
you're a
same
lawyer,
facts.
whether you're a lawyer or not, in America, facts are facts, and I don't think the American people are going to stand for this.
Do you think they care? I mean, do you think the average person cares that they fudged, I'm trying to be generous, the crowd size issues and that sort of stuff?
Listen, it's not about crowd sizes.
What is it?
This is about bigger issues. This is about women's choices about their bodies. This is about basic human rights, about immigrants, about the diversity of our country, and celebrating and embracing that.
But again, they knew all these things. Other than him saying, Kellyanne Conway saying yesterday, he's never releasing his tax returns, even if that alleged audit is completed. We don't know if there was an audit. Other than that, they're doing exactly what they said they would do. Again, makes you unhappy, but that's why you didn't vote for him, right?
Absolutely. But I would say that Americans seeing it in action, I think, is going to be a very different story than hearing it on the
Don't you think
campaign
that,
trail.
you did a very nice job with whatever this thing was a minute ago, but don't you think it does a disservice to the American people attacking the press almost incessantly? I mean, if it turns out this is what you tune in to see from the leader of the free world and the press, who benefits from that sort of thing?
I think we're talking about early days, and I agree. Over time, this is going to get really tiresome. However, the press, by its own actions and its words, has set itself up for this type of criticism. Well, the false news, the fake news. This is a phenomenon, by the way, which I've been living with for a long time.
By the way, the father of fake news is the guy who's now the senior advisor to the President of the United States, the guy from Breitbart.
I would say the father of fake news. To find that line of paternity, you've got to go back to the 1950s and 60s.
No, but I'm talking about in this era.
Advocacy. Well, what has Steve Bannon done that is fake?
So no offense,
Facts,
to the media. This isn't about defending the media.
What is it about?
This is about immigrant families who are scared and worried about what their future looks like in America. The Dreamers. They were just talking about this today.
So what do the Democrats do? I mean, there was I don't know if either of you saw the Frontline documentary the other night, and it talked. Newt Gingrich deserves, I think, credit for candor, talking about how the night that Barack Obama was sworn in, he, Mitch McConnell, and other Republican leaders on the night started talking about how to just say no to absolutely everything. Is that what the Democrats should do?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What should they do?
And I take offense at the head of the Massachusetts Republican Party, who today called our congressional delegation and Democrats who stood up at these marches this weekend as political stunts. That is nonsense. This is about using our voices and being heard about concerns that are real to real people.
So do they, on things like infrastructure, if he really is willing to kick in $500 billion or $1 trillion, as Mike Pence told the National Conference of Mayors the other day, Democrats should be there, right? If he wants to attack Big Pharma for these insane prices, Democrats should be there, yes?
Listen, we're going to be there when he's on the right side of the issues, but when we're building a dumb wall, we're not.
How about a surprise? I know that's a great line from... wait. How about on the Supreme Court nominee? Merrick Garland was stonewalled. Should the Democrats stonewall the Supreme Court nominee of the president?
Listen, everyone should get their fair hearing. This is about democracy. Everyone should be heard.
Why shouldn't the Democrats do exactly what the Republicans did to Merrick Garland?
I'll answer that question in a second.
Yes.
Do you think that today's March for Life in Washington, D.C. should get the same coverage as the Women's March on Saturday?
What do you mean by that? I'm sorry.
Just what I said. Do you think that the march... do you know that today was the day when the
I think
pro-life
when 5
community
million
marched for
people
life?
around the world stand up and march and have signs that say, I believe in science, I wish our president did, I think that's something that should be heard.
Have either of you seen any reporting on today's March for Life in Washington,
I've
D.C.?
heard mention. I have not seen any report.
I've not seen any reporting. This gets at the element of fake news that you're talking about. Since my youth, the liberal mainstream media has exercised
about the media.
a hegemony over reporting.
Frank,
in
I have
this
to correct
country.
you because last week what we talked about a lot was the split in the... We're going to talk about the march in a minute, about
Yes.
pro-life and
Yes.
pro-choice women,
Yes.
where there's a dispute as to whether or not they should participate. So again, today you may have a point,
Yeah.
but historically I think there's been great coverage of the dissatisfaction of pro-life people who did want to march on Saturday.
Correct.
One last thing.
Sure.
First of all, should the Democrats stonewall the Republican, Donald Trump nominee to the Supreme Court, just like the Republicans did to Merrick Garland?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Think,
What's the difference?
I don't think they
Why
should.
not?
There are, number one, Trump has won the election.
Barack Obama was president of the United States.
Yeah, but there was an election coming in November, and it would have been meet.
Well, there's an election coming in by the Republican thing. It's election's 4 years away. Exactly.
That's too attenuated, but 6 months was not.
Do you know who the next U.S. attorney is going to be in this region?
No.
Do you really not know? Raise your right hand and say you don't know. Is that true?
Upon my oath, I do not know.
Fair enough. We got to go, Frank. It's great to see you.
Great
Great to see you, too.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much
much
for your time.